I'm Nicole Holcomb, the host of the Dyslexia Mom Life podcast. I help moms raising children with dyslexia get clarity to set goals for their children to thrive with dyslexia. What do I mean by thrive? So many children with dyslexia are struggling academically, who aren't yet identified with dyslexia, or they aren't receiving enough remediation, and as a result, these kiddos are experiencing low self-esteem, a low self-confidence, and high levels of anxiety. I help moms create plans to address the academic, social, and emotional goals while recognizing and nurturing their children's strengths and passions. With over 20 years of experience as an educator and school counselor, and more importantly, as a mom raising an amazing daughter with dyslexia, I get it. I can't wait to help you get clarity and ditch the dead end for a road to thrive. Let's get started. You are listening to the Dyslexia Mom Life podcast, episode 63. Today on the show, we are going to be talking about Believe It. Believe it and you will enjoy the benefits. Did you know that you have a lot in common with an amazing CEO, author, and billionaire? I had not planned to share this with you today, but over the past few days, I have been reading Believe It by Kern Lima. Y'all, I could not put this book down. I finished it yesterday, and I have been sharing it with everyone I talked to this week. And so, of course, I wanted to share it with you as well. I know some of you may be traveling over spring break or Easter weekend, or maybe you're making plans even for your summer vacations. And if you're like me, I'm always looking for a good book to take along. But you know what? You may be looking for a good book right now, and I was. So I highly recommend this book. You can read it or listen to it while you're on your trip, or just in car line or the margins of your day. This is the book you're going to want to read. I was first introduced to Jamie when I was taking a course from Amy Porterfield. She was teaching me actually how to build a digital course. Jamie spoke to our group last year. I mean, I wish I had met her in person, but since this was the beginning of the 2020 pandemic, it was all virtual. But even so, Jamie lights up a room with her smile and her warmth. So I started following her on social channels, and when she released her book on my daughter's birthday of all days, I knew it was another sign that I needed to read this book. I have to be honest, I originally picked this book up to learn more about how Jamie had created her company, It Cosmetics. She created and founded this cosmetic company from her living room, and she eventually sold it to L'Oreal for $1.2 billion. You know, at first I thought, well, I might not have anything in common with her, but something in my gut told me, you need to read this book. And her story really resonated with me, more than just a business owner, but she really hits to the core of being a mom and raising a child with dyslexia in so many ways. Now, her book's nothing about dyslexia. It is about the way we show up as women and what we think about ourselves and how we let other people into our world. And she shares a lot of very personal stories. A good bit of them are about the road to becoming the CEO. And she talks about all the no's and all the doors shut in her face. She talks about the difficulties, but she also talks about those struggles, even personal struggles with her weight and her family. There's just a lot of really good nuggets in that book. So you may be thinking, well, what would I have in common with Jamie? I mean, I'm not a CEO. I'm not an author. I'm not a billionaire. So what would I have in common with Jamie? And why should I read this book? Well, you know what, friends? Don't fear. There are 3 things that you have in common with Jamie. Let's break those down. The first thing you have in common with Jamie is, in chapter 2, she talks about believe where you come from doesn't determine where you're going. I'm going to read you a really quick excerpt from that chapter 2. She says, when something hard happens, once you're able to process it emotionally, you're then left with some choices. Do you victim up or do you warrior up? Do you give up or do you level up and believe? The up is up to you. And I have to say, friends, as I read this chapter in particular, she talks about, where you're coming from, your background doesn't determine where you're going. And if you think about our kiddos with dyslexia, and you think about even maybe your own family background, things are hard sometimes in life, especially parenting. But when you find out your child has dyslexia, it seems a little scary at first. I mean, just the word dyslexia, even trying to spell it can be, even now, difficult some days. So when you think about how hard that was, and maybe how hard that is right now, maybe you're still in the midst of figuring this out at the beginning, you have to make a decision. And one of the pieces that I want you to think about when you think about believing in how you're going to react, remember your child, or maybe your children with dyslexia, they are looking at your cues. Should I just give up, Mom? Should I not try? I can't learn to read. I think of our journey as being warrior moms. And so when I read, are you going to warrior up? It is up to you. Oh my goodness, that hit home for me. So you have to determine that now, wherever you are on your journey. If you've been able to process where you are emotionally, then you're left with choices. You're left with, what am I going to do next? Am I going to warrior up for my child? Am I going to learn all I can about dyslexia? Am I going to learn all about how I can best help my child? Am I going to learn what my child's needs are and strengths and passions so that I can help them be the best possible person that they can be? It's a lot to take on. I get that. Or are you going to sit in that victim mentality of, this happened to us, that's why he can't learn or she can't learn? We have to make that decision. But, I know right now in my heart, you're not here listening to this podcast because you want to give up and you want to be a victim. That's not who you are. You are that warrior mom. You are going to level up, and you are going to believe that you can get this done and that you can help your child accomplish anything. So that chapter 2, there's lots in the book. I'm going to try not to give you many spoilers as I give some really critical review today and give you some feedback as to why I believe this book is important to you right now. So the second thing that you have in common with Jamie is that in chapter 3, she says, believe in the power of embracing your truth. I think this goes right along with what we just talked about. So in chapter 2, I'm going to quote here just one sentence: pay attention to your struggles as they become your superpower. Pay attention to your struggles as they become your superpower. So when you're embracing that truth of dyslexia and you're saying that proudly, and we do in our family. I mean, yeah, we went through some emotional pieces as well, but once we got to the other side, we did embrace that truth, and we do have open conversations in our family. We don't shame it. We don't hide it away. We talk about it. Even a few days ago, our daughter, I was asking her something, and she said, that's just, I'm dyslexic. That's just the way I think things. And so, not in a bad way, but just she was reminding me what I was asking her. The reason she couldn't remember that was part of her dyslexic brain. And so she embraces that she thinks differently. And if you embrace that, and really pay attention to the struggles that you are having, they will change you, and they will become your superpower. And just think of, it may be too early now and too raw, but really pay attention to those pieces, because there are things that you're going to learn as a parent that you would have never have learned had you not had a child with dyslexia. You are going to embrace and be more empathetic to others. You may even change the way you interact with people in public, or with your community, or with your coworkers or your boss, because you now realize people think differently. And, the fact that he didn't do something he was supposed to follow up on, you may realize, well, maybe I didn't give clear directions, right, when you're working with a coworker. So just being aware that the brain works differently and how dyslexics think really does open up your brain and your experiences really to become a better person. So I say all the time that it really is a benefit even as a family. So when you pay attention to those struggles, Jamie says those can become your superpower. One of the things I talk about a good bit, especially in my course, is, I recommend that you start journaling. And I try to do this as often as I can, which is really journaling down your thoughts, your struggles, because then you can reflect back to those. And I guarantee you, once people know that you're in the community of having a child with dyslexia, people are going to reach out to you. People are going to ask you your opinion on things. People are going to ask you about your struggles, and then you become the teacher. It really is an amazing opportunity. Right now, it may not feel like that. It may not feel like a superpower, but our struggles do make us stronger. And then the third thing that I believe you have in common with Jamie is, in chapter 13, Jamie talks about, don't believe in balance. It's a lie. I'm going to give you a quick quote from chapter 13. But I don't think achieving balance is possible. I believe balance, as it pertains to juggling all the important aspects of our lives equally, is a lie. And I agree with Jamie. And this is something we all have in common. To be fully present, we have to be present. Okay, you've got to be in the room, but not thinking about everything else. And this is hard. This is a skill set, right? When you're in the room and you're thinking about work, or you're at work and you're thinking about your child, we have to really, find that piece that, I almost said balance, but it's just not possible to get a true balance of your time, and you're juggling so many things, and everything can't be equal all of the time. So one of the things Jamie talks about in this chapter, and I've talked about on the podcast before, is just being fully present. So when you're, having a movie night with your family, or you're playing games, or you're at the soccer game with your child, be fully present. Don't be checking your phone. Don't be responding to emails from your boss. Be fully present. And when you're at work, or other activities that you have to do, maybe you're doing some community work, or maybe you're doing some volunteer work, be 100% present when you're there. Be absolutely present and aware of what is needed and how you can be the best possible you while you're there. Because when we are somewhere physically, but our mind and our emotions are other places, then it's really more of a lose-lose. There's not a possibility to have that true balance in our lives. And society tells us that we can have it all. We can, but not all at one time. So you have to figure out, how do I want to continue to try to juggle all these things? Because it is just not possible to have an equal game, okay? And so Jamie talks about that in chapter 13, and she talks about how that is a lie, and that is just something that we're told, go and try to achieve balance. But she believes, and I completely agree, that, you've got to be fully present in the moment that you're in. That's what your children will remember. Now, you may have even more things in common with Jamie, and I bet you do. So go pick up a copy of her book to learn more about Jamie and her story and the wisdom that she gives you along the way. And if you're an Oprah fan, you're going to love one of the last chapters where she talks about Oprah. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to give you any other spoilers on that. I'm going to provide a link in the show notes so that you can order your copy today. And you know what? It'll be delivered to you probably in the next 2 days. Those things come really quick. I want you to have a great week. And remember, you got this, and we are in this together. Go grab a copy of Jamie's book. I'd love to know what you think about it. You won't regret this purchase, and you won't regret the time you spend reading it. I really did enjoy her words of wisdom. So go out and enjoy your week. I'll see you back here next Monday.